Hey guys, here today with another Shirogorov knife video. Today we have in front of us the Bio. The Bio is a collaboration between Dmitry Sinkevich and the Shirogorov Workshop. And like all other Sinkevich collaborations, this is based off of an existing design by Dmitry. This one here is based on the Bio Flipper. Now, this came out in 2018, I believe. There was a follow-up mini version that came out, I believe, in 2019, 2020. And the way Dmitry does his customs, he'll do 5 or so pieces, a handful, including prototypes, that are usually put up for auction at shows. And really what these collaborations between the Shirogorov Workshop and Dmitry, what it allows it is really to have Dmitry's designs be more accessible. Of course, as you guys might already know, Dmitry is a very prolific designer who has licensed out his designs with many other production knife companies such as Spyderco, Zero Tolerance, and Kershaw. But really, I think Shirogorov, when they do their collaborations with Dmitry, it's really a step above the companies I had just mentioned. And the Bio Flipper, of course, is no exception. Now, the Bio Flipper was an incredibly awaited or requested, I guess, collaboration. Of course, Shirogorov doesn't really talk about which collaboration they're going to do next with Dmitry, but when the design had come out in 2018, people were really hoping that the workshop would do a collaboration with Dmitry, and now we're here in 2022, and it's finally happened. Now, this was a 300 piece run. There are actually 2 configurations: the light model, as you see here, and also the dark. The dark is actually being run right now as this video is being made, the lottery on Recon 1. I think that actually when this video goes up, the lottery will have been closed. But hopefully, for you guys who have entered, this video will help kind of show you some of the really cool details of this knife that might have not already been explained. But anyways, the light configuration here, you can see has the normal titanium handles with the darkened hardware, pivot, clip, backspacer. The dark configuration is just the inverse of that with the darkened handles and normal titanium colored clip, backspacer, and pivot. Now these are 300 piece run, so half light, half dark, and also the lottery is also being run on the Shirogorov website for the Russian collectors as well. But anyways, taking a look at the knife here, I really want to compare it to the F95 since the size and how they handle is very similar in many ways. Putting it up against an F95 size knife here, you can see that we're looking at very similar sizes, and again, just put up a neon, you can see that the neon is obviously smaller than both these 2 knives above here. And what that means is you're looking at 4 inches of cutting length here, and a handle or open size of between 8 3/4 and 9 inches, so a tad longer than the F95 at 8 3/4. The closed handle size is looking at around, let's see here, just a little bit over 5 inches, between 5 and 5 1/4. The backspacer does stick out a little bit here past the edge of the handles here. Quite interesting. Actually, the F95 does that too. Take a look here at the way the backspacer. Oh, but actually doesn't go past the actual pommel butt area of the knife. Taking a look at the weight here, this does have a 3.2 millimeter blade stock, so I think that should help cut down the weight a lot. Yeah, you're looking here at just a hair over 4 ounces, so a solid 1 ounce lighter pretty much compared to the F95 Zero, which is a hair over 5 ounces. But again, the F95 Zero is using that 4 millimeter blade stock. All right, let's take a look at the blade here. Now the blade is unchanged from the original bio design, the full-sized bio design here. We have this beautiful, long, sweeping, curved swedge here, very typical of what Dmitry likes to do when he does do swedges on his knife. The swedges are bold and loud, something that's a little bit different than when Sergey does swedges on a knife. Usually they're a little bit more subtle, as on the stellar, even when they do span across from the tip back here to the jimping. The flats are satin finished, and the finish on the blade is that finer stonewash finish that you see on the custom division knives as well. Again, we have that 3.2 millimeter blade stock thickness, so quite a slicey blade. The steel is M398, which seems to be the steel that Shirogorov is using on their kind of more limited run knives. We're also starting to see it on the custom divisions as well, and also the collaborations with the other makers, the non-Sinkevich collaborations. The jimping is a little bit finer than what we see on, say, the Neon Zero and the F95 Zero, but it's still not as tight as what we see on the older generation of production knives. It does have a little bit of, a good amount actually, of traction here, and again is much better than the Zero style jimping, which I think really doesn't have much function at all. The jimping pattern is actually the same as what we see on the original bio, actually, from the original Dmitry design. So it's nice to see that that is being faithfully replicated here on the collaboration as well. I also think it's very interesting that the blade area, this part of the spine where the jimping is, the first two notches here starts off flat, and then as the blade kind of swoops downward and drops, the jimping goes along with it. So just another just a small interesting note that the jimping is not completely straight across the length. Taking a look at the blade flash, you can see the logos of both parties involved here. Dmitry with the Sinkevich design logo, and then the Shirogorov logo here on the other side as well. Taking a look at the handle here, we have a beautiful milling pattern that was designed by Dmitry specifically for this model here. A lot of people have obviously noticed that we have this very, very complex, tight milling line here. I personally, when I first saw it, saw this kind of spine that's running through it. I'm not sure if it's caught on with the community, but other people really also see this kind of spine rib cage that runs across the handle of the knife. Of course, with the name Bio, it seems like Dmitry was inspired by a lot of natural biological elements that he's seen in nature. And so a lot of parts of the knife, he's integrated that into the design. Coincidentally, some of the other, the full custom bios have different milling patterns. There's one with ovals on both the outside and the inside, the internal milling. The pivot here is actually inspired by the pistil, a reproductive organ of the flower, of a flower. So that's quite interesting to see the background on where he's gotten inspiration. For the ribcage kind of spine-esque handle pattern thing here, that's just my evaluation, but I wouldn't be surprised if that actually is where he, or something that he intended for the appearance of the milling pattern here on the handle. The handles are 3D contoured, and something that I think is a very welcome and desired change. Now, you take a look at the previous Sinkevich collaborations, the Kami, those were flat. It was stepped, so there was some depth to it, but they were flat handles. And then we had the Pero and the Sigma, of course, those being carbon fiber. People really wanted just a normal titanium frame lock. Some of the most popular Sinkevich collaborations with Shirogorov, the Cordinal, for example, were just simple titanium frame locks with those contoured handles. And I think the community had really been wanting something along those lines, and we've gotten it with the Bio Flipper here. So really great choice there, and I think the community is very satisfied with that. Taking a look at the back side of the knife, You can see here that we have the Sinkevich tri-lobe screws. Of course, these bits don't come with the knife. Every time a collaboration comes out, people get the knife and they're like, why can't I open up my knife? You know, the opening this knife up is going to be a little bit more complex than, you know, people call Shirogorov screws proprietary. You can technically use a flathead if you're careful. With these screws, you pretty much can really knot without messing up the screws. There is the $400 Sinkevich pen option. Do I think you need to spend that much money to open up your knife, or should? Personally, I don't think so, but being a collector myself, I do have the tools here, and I do recommend them if you are to open up your knife to maintain it, which I think is also an important part if you're going to use the knife as well. So just a note of caution here. I honestly don't think that Dmitry would have allowed his design to be reproduced with the Shirogorov screws. You know, his design is going to come with this hardware, so I think that's a pretty obvious thing. The lock bar insert screw here is, however, a normal Torx. And taking a look at the rest of the handle here, we can see that the milling pattern, of course, continues on the log side as well. We have a rear screw here as well. It's blind screwed, so the show side here has no rear hardware that's visible on the rear portion of the handle. And the clip here, we have this beautiful symmetric clip that is angled on both sides here. I really love this clip. I think really when I take a look at it, it evokes kind of a leaf motif, for me at least. This clip is also, you know, noticeably longer than what we see on, say, an F95 as well. Of course, you know, Dmitry's really not trying to, you know, make everything exactly the same as an F95. But taking a look here, you can see that the clip is noticeably longer, something that I think is apparent as well when you have it in the hand. Now, this is one of the reasons why I think this is the reason why the knife is a little bit longer than the F95 here. As you can see, taking a look, the way that the rear screw is affixed on an F95 with this Chicago screw assembly, it's higher up on the knife handle. And so the blade, as it sits closed in the knife, is not going to hit the rear portion, or it's not going to hit the Chicago screw assembly when closed. With the bio and having the rear screw act as what affixes the clip to the handle and passing through the backspacer into the show side, it had to be placed further back so that the blade would not hit it as it sits lower, pretty much on the midpoint of the handle design here. So it just made a little bit longer. Again, I want to say less than a fourth of an inch, less than half, like 1/8 of an inch longer. But overall, it is pretty much a similar size to the F95. A lot of people think that the handle design is significantly longer, but I also think that's also because the handle seems a little bit shorter in height as well compared to an F95. But overall, they carry quite similarly. Taking a look at the backspacer here, you can see we have quite a long backspacer. The backspacer is a very prominent piece when taking a look at the top of the knife, and also has this beautiful kind of angled contouring here as the backspacer kind of narrows as you get towards the pommel area of the knife. Also taking a look, if you can see real closely here, the backspacer has these horizontally milled lines. That's, you know, just a beautiful small detail. Actually on the insides of the titanium handles, or on both sides here as well, you can see, well, the backspacer is also titanium, but you can also see those horizontal milling lines. Hopefully my camera can capture that. Again, just those small details that, you know, Dmitry and Shirogorov like to put into all aspects of the knives. Taking a look at the inside of the backspacer, you can see that there are these 3 bumps here. These are actually part of the 3, this is a result of the 3 pins that help, you know, secure the backspacer to the handle of the knife. This is very interesting, actually, comparing that to an F95 or other knives that Dmitry has put out. I believe actually the mini bio as well. Most other knives, really, you only need 1 pin here. Why are there 3 pins? I think probably just because Dmitry wanted to. Going back and taking a look at Dmitry's Instagram, it seems that even the original bio design did have 3 pins here on the backspacer. Again, really just makes it that much more difficult for them to drill those 3 holes into the handle and make sure that everything aligns perfectly. And on a couple of knives that I've actually cleaned and disassembled, it's pretty tight fitting, those 3 pins, and then having to get those 3 pins aligned when you assemble the entire knife together. It fits pretty tightly. So again, just a testament to the quality of machining here and the planning, of course, by Dmitry and the Shirogorov Workshop. Of course, something that is very common with Dmitry and Shirogorov knives as well is you can see this little groove here that's cut to kind of show off the centering of the blade of the knife. And of course, this example is quite centered. Now, I think for a lot of people, especially those who have experienced the recent Sinkevich collaborations, one of the things that was on the minds was how well does this knife flip in the action? Well, let's first talk about the action. The MRBS, this is common on all of Sinkevich's knives. The bearing cage is a little bit different in layout compared to the Shirogorov MRBS. I think Dmitry refers to it as a Mickey Mouse arrangement. So it's kind of like a triangle shape here. Actually, I think that's where the logo, MRBS logo, comes from, is the arrangement of the bearings, as opposed to Shirogorov, where it's kind of a spiral layout. But regardless, in my opinion, from what I've experienced, the Dmitry Sinkevich MRBS layout is a little bit more drop-shutty, a little bit faster in my experience. So it's nice to see that they're also using the Sinkevich MRBS cages in the collaborations. That's something, of course, that's a little bit different than the normal Shirogorov MRBS that you'll find in Shirogorov production knives. And the action on this is quite good. Again, very drop shut. The satin flats really help with that. I do recommend the knife comes with grease if you are able to disassemble it, to swap it out to oil if you want something that's a little bit more drop shut. If anybody needs help with that, PM me. I can do that for your knife as well. I really like helping other people out in the community. A lot of people do know this. But anyways, how about the flipping action itself, the flipper tab? A lot of people are really disappointed with the Kami, Sigma, and the Pero, just because Dmitry has been on this kick of designing very low-profile flipper tabs. Now, if you notice here, the Bio does have a fairly small flipper tab size, especially when you compare it to, say, F95, the Quantum, and even the Neon here. I think it's actually a little bit shorter than a Neon. The flipper tab is by no means large, like, say, the one on the Russian Overkill, the R.J. Martin collaboration. However, it is miles more accessible than the Kami or the Pero. The detent strength, I think, is also much more accessible. Again, the flipper tab is located pretty much 90 degrees up, as opposed to the Pero, for example, which had it really far out here. I think the Kami had it a little bit far out too. What this does is magnify the detent strength, since you can put a lot of leverage if the flipper tab is further forward of the pivot. So in my opinion, I think this is pretty much the perfect placement and size of the flipper tab. It's something that's a little bit different than the F95, but again, it's still very readily accessible, and everyone that I've talked to, they've really found no problems flipping it. Some people do wish it was a little bit bigger like an F95, but in no means is it hurting anyone's thumbs, and I haven't seen any that have had excessively hard detents like what some people had been experiencing with, say, the Pero, for example. So that concern, I think, has been addressed with this model here. Again, it's not like Dmitry had changed this, this design of this knife based on the feedback of previous knives, since, again, the original Bio flipper that came out in 2018 has the same sized flipper tab and placement. But, the knife design in general is just quite flippable. In terms of what I think of the knife overall, I think this is honestly just the Sinkevich F95. Not saying that the F95 is the standard, but I think given the overall proportions, the kind of very traditional look of the knife, of course, tactical folders is its own kind of category, but comparing this to some of Dmitry's other designs, it's not quite as far out there. We have the Ambo flipper with 2 clips on each side. We have bunch of knives which have Persian style sweeping blades. This is a pretty kind of down-to-earth design. I think that's the best way to put it from Dmitry. And I think a lot of people who are fans of the F95 are really going to like this knife if they want something just a little bit different. And, with design accents from, Dmitry, who is a world-class knife designer. And it really doesn't get any much better than, a collaboration by the Shirogorov Workshop, who's going to put out a very high-quality piece. It's pretty much the next best thing to owning a full custom by Dmitry himself, which, again, like I stated earlier in the video, there really are just a handful of these, less than 10, I'm sure. So overall, I really like the knife. They've faithfully replicated a lot of the features here. This beautiful blade profile, the pivot, the hardware, really love the clip, and the geometric pivot. The handle milling is sublime. The blade steel is, no joke. M398 is going to hold its edge for quite a long time. And a lot of really other interesting details here, like the milling on the handle, the 3 pins here, just a lot of detail work on, and the lines here on the back spacer as well. A lot of really interesting design elements that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy. And, rightly so, a lot of people have named this the one of the best, pretty much the best collaboration with Dmitry since the Cordinal that Shirogorov has done. And honestly, I agree. I think this is really a collaboration that's going to be remembered for quite a long time. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Really enjoyed making this, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.